this is Shawn.
Hey, so, after the wonderful sort of little winter break, New Year, we decided we sort of wanted to talk about preparing for a Nerf War.
Yes, or for those of you who've been to Nerf Wars, just kind of like the stuff you would do in between games to kind of get yourself ready to go.
Exactly.
Especially this time of year, it's a little bit colder, it's rainy, snowy, whatever region you're in during the winter time, it's typically going to be a little bit colder. Unless you're in Australia, because it's summer there.
I think so.
Yeah, so summer, it's prime time. So you don't wait 6 months and then listen to this.
There we go.
Or listen now, give us the hits, and then listen again in 6 months so we can double up. That would be fantastic.
Yes.
But generally during this time, there aren't a lot of Nerf games going on, especially if you typically play outside.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tricky time of year to be playing. So we're going to focus on the stuff you can do between Nerf Wars to kind of prepare yourself and make the most out of the games you are playing.
And this isn't just going to be an off-season type thing. These are sort of things you can do all the time. But in the off-season, at least for us, I don't like playing when it's raining outside, or if it's too cold or windy, darts are going to fly weird, or you won't be able to feel them hitting you because you're wearing so many layers. So, what to do? What to do to satisfy your Nerf cravings and prepare for the next Nerf War?
In order to snackify on your Nerfify.
Yes.
So we tied. So one of the things I always like to focus on is Nerf Wars. If you're playing in a very competitive environment, they're kind of exhausting. They're very physically tiring. So something I like to focus on is I exercise during the off season.
Yeah, and during the on season too.
And on season too, but usually I can at least, when you're running around and playing a lot, you're kind of always conditioning yourself that way.
Right.
During the off season, I mean, let's face it, during wintertime, people are inside. There's a lot of good comfort food like cookies and cake you can eat around the holidays. That's why so many people make New Year's resolutions, because they gain so much weight during winter because they just want to be bundled up inside eating delicious food. They gain a lot of weight.
Definitely.
So now, honestly, is a great time, New Year's resolutions, to go out there, start exercising, and start getting ready to actually play in Nerf Wars when they start up.
Yeah, especially if you play really fast-paced wars like we do. That cardio and that endurance is just going to only help you.
Yeah.
So.
And once again, this is something you can do between games too, because I can tell you being fast is a huge edge in Nerf. A lot of the games, especially when you have objective-based games, it's so useful having a fast player who can run in, get to the critical points as quickly as possible, get on the flag, and once they get it, just being able to book faster than everyone else to capture the flag. Doing that for planting the bomb, or even game modes where it's like team deathmatch.
Yeah.
You're running around, you're dodging, you're jumping around. It's very exhausting. So training yourself between games is going to give you a huge edge. And if you're anything like us and have kind of a gap during the holidays, it's the perfect time to kind of prepare, keep yourself on your toes. That way when you come back to your first game, you're not going to be winded, you're not going to be tired, you're not going to just have to stop and take a break after a couple games because you've let yourself get flabby.
Exactly. Conditioning is key. It's like Zombieland. Rule number 1: cardio. And that sort of goes with sort of the next point that you can do is I know a lot of people got new blasters and things. There were sales over the holidays. So figuring out your loadout before you go. Because I hate it when people sort of show up with everything they've got and they're trying to figure out like what they want to run or how they want to run it. And I mean, yeah, you're going to have different game types, which might, one blaster might be better than the other for a game type. But I mean, figure out some loadouts that you're going to want to run, where you're going to put things on your person, and how you're going to do things like reload. Everybody's like, cool, I've got strifes now, I'm going to like dual wield strifes. Like, great, where are you going to put your extra magazines? Are you going to put them in your back pocket? Do you have something that holds magazines that you're going to put them in? And how are you going to reload easily? You obviously have 2 blasters. Can you manipulate magazines fast enough to be able to reload properly? Or are you just going to like drop one and go? Do you have a sling? Do you do you have a holster? So there's a lot of things to sort of think about and consider when you're not playing Nerf to prepare for your next Nerf war.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice when you have a regular group you play with because you kind of know what the hosts are going to run, what game modes they're going to want to play. So it's very easy to plan ahead and say, okay, I know we're definitely going to play capture the flag, so I want this type of blaster. I know this group likes to play team deathmatch, so this type of blaster is not going to be as well, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Like, I know for a lot of our game types, a lot of our players will bring extra hailfires just because they work great for some game modes.
Yeah.
But for others, they can slow you down and be just too bulky, so they're not as good.
Excuse me. Exactly. So if you're bringing... have different loadouts. So if you're going to bring a hailfire... You're probably not going to want a ton of extra mags because you have 144 rounds on tap, more than likely, if you're running a Hailfire. Whereas if you're running something like a Retaliator, you're going to want those extra magazines to be able to throw in there and switch. So having sort of different loadouts for more speed or more heavy weapons type combat is just a good idea to sort of go over beforehand.
Plus the preparation time it takes for a lot of these blasters, too, is something to keep in mind.
Right.
Like something like the Strife is kind of easy because it's just a voltage mod. You might want to pop it open and remove that bar that locks up when you're out of ammo or the dart's not pressing against it. Like those are simple mods that don't take a lot of time, but you want to make sure you are working on them before the game starts up.
Yeah, nothing's worse than the night before you trying to put a mod in, especially when it's more complicated than just a voltage mod, and finding out it doesn't work or something's wrong. I remember one of the first wars I went to, I was trying to get my Alpha Trooper working with the mods, and I had to wake up that morning and find out, like, I got it to fire once or twice and I thought it was good. I woke up the next morning and it wasn't quite working properly. I had to take it apart before I left for the game, and I was rushing on time, like didn't eat breakfast, all of this stuff, just so that I could get it to work properly, and it sucks. So I learned my lesson, like make sure that everything's working well before the game day.
Plus, it takes time to get materials, too, so always keep that in mind. Like, something I've noticed, too, is a lot of the mods are, like, brass breach mods or other ones requiring specialty parts for, like, springs and other stuff like that. They're not always going to be readily on hand in your area. A lot of the times you will have to order online. It'll take a couple of weeks. So, hey, this is the perfect time to look and say, hey, for the games I'm playing, this is the type of blaster I want to run. Let's focus and just get these parts for it. Because I have this problem where I will do this, where I want to work on mods. I'll buy the parts, but they'll come in a couple days before the game.
Right.
And I know I won't have time to work on them, so I just don't finish them. And then if life catches up to me, they just never get done. Or I change my mind and start going with a different blaster. So instead of testing out a mod, it ends up not even happening. However, now during the holidays, I can really sit down, look at what projects I want to work on, kind of create a list of priorities, and work based off that. Instead of feeling like every so often there's always a project I have to work on and never getting it done in time for games.
Yeah, having ample testing time, even after you've finished a project, is good because you can finish it the day before and then take it out and it doesn't quite perform the way you wanted it to, or it's not hitting the ranges. I mean, just because you throw in the parts doesn't mean it's going to be working perfectly, and also doesn't mean that you're prepared to have your loadout accommodate that new blaster and the new mods that you have on it.
Yeah, that actually happened to me last year where I was running a Hailfire for the first time, and a couple of my friends who were playing them during the games had great luck with them. But once I actually got out there, I did a voltage mod for it. I've heard everywhere it can handle 4 batteries fine. It's not optimal, but it can run with it. When I was going out there, I was knowing issues where it wouldn't rev up, it would die out after a while.
Yeah.
Just getting used to the blaster itself took a little bit of work too. So honestly, if I had spent the time doing that, say during an off season or when I had like a couple weeks off of Nerf between games, just practicing with it, getting used to it, getting used to firing it. Instead of firing, say, a magazine, flipping it once, seeing it fire the other magazine, and assuming it's always going to work well.
Right.
Because me standing still doing a fire test is going to be much more different than constantly using it during a 6 to 8 hour period in an all-day Nerf war where I'm running around doing different angles. My equipment might not be in the safest of environments because I'll be running around with it. It could drop. It could be hit, you know. So being able to take in and account these kind of conditions in the off-season and prepare for them, that way when you have your game, you're not going to have that issue where I have to stop, I have to figure out gun jams.
Right.
It's all taken care of ahead of time, so when it's time to play, you can play as much as you want.
Exactly. Now, speaking of mods, for those of you that use Steffens, ideally, you'll probably already know what your loadout's going to kind of look like because you've been using Steffens, but take this time to make Steffens because I see so many people are like, oh, right before a Nerf War, I need to get like 100 more of these out, or I need to make so many of these, or does anyone have any I could borrow because I don't have enough ammunition? And it's like, well, you're the one using the Steffens, dude. Like, make them. I mean, come on. You don't come to a Nerf War unprepared. I don't come and say like, hey, does anyone have some stock elites I could borrow because I didn't go and buy some last night? And also, if you are not used to using Steffens and you are making them for the first time, remember you're going to have to accommodate for that now. If they, you're going to have to either mod your mags, mod your blaster. How are you going to carry these if they're not in magazines, if it's a sort of single load type blaster that you have? Just what are you going to do? So if you're running Steffens, I mean, this is the perfect time to really just go, cool, I'm going to get a bunch of these knocked out so that this whole next season maybe I won't even have to make more. Or if I do, it's not a ton. Instead of night before a game, you're rushing, trying to freaking throw a bunch in the dryer and hot glue and a bunch of junk like that. So
yeah, honestly, I've never run into a situation where someone feels like they have too many darts.
Yeah, exactly. You can't come to a Nerf War and have more darts than you need. You're going to be like, well, I've got as many as I need and then some. So, other than that, let's see. There's sort of loadout, which we already sort of talked about. But one of the things I wanted to mention in loadout, I mean, is something that you might not have thought of. I know when we first started running games, nobody else really did this. And then it sort of caught on like wildfire, is a pouch or something to put darts in. Now, even if you don't plan on running a blaster in which you need to load a single dart from, and you have, 5 or 6 magazines on you, it's still good to A, have extra darts on your person if the game type allows for it, so you can reload on field, and B, it makes cleanup amazing.
So much easier, because I see a lot of new players come in and they start shagging darts, and they'll have like a handful of just like 5 darts, and it's like, okay, who needs darts because I don't have room in my hand anymore to hold anymore. Right. Well, I'll just walk over and I'll just stick my hip out where my drop pouch is and like just drop them in when we'll keep going.
Yeah. Or people unfortunately will put them in their pockets to try and make more room. And the darts get bent while they're walking. Like, oh my gosh. A pouch is just so much easier. Just Velcro it down and up.
Honestly,
amazing.
I just like the idea of gear in general. Like, it's tricky because when you look online, everyone has their own opinions about what works and what doesn't work. I like that Coop recently did a video for his Coop.
Coop 772?
Yes. I almost call him Coop 007. I mean, 007 is really good with guns too, but he dies a lot. There's a different actor, so...
Yeah,
As far as I know, there's only one Coop. Yeah. Besides the one who drives Megas XLR. But that's besides the point. So, no one's going to get that joke. And anyone who does, congratulations. I hope you're smiling right now. Because I'm smiling right now, too. Looking around for gear, Coop did a video where he did his loadout, and a lot of it was made with duct tape. So, once again, that's something that takes time. But if you want something a little bit more, say, professional looking, if you have some extra cash to blow, just shopping around, looking around online, going to local Army surplus stores. Yeah. There's a lot of gear that honestly works fantastic for Nerf. Like, I was surprised. Like, the whole drop pouch thing, when we were first looking around, Josh was checking out surplus stores, but I was thinking, oh, Nerf makes this drop pouch, and I'll use that. And it's made out of flimsy material. It doesn't hold very many darts in it. Yeah. It doesn't hold its shape. I end up leaving the little cardboard box that makes it look like an actual box. Yeah. On the display. I left that in there just so it would hold its shape, so it wouldn't like loop and drop darts when you're running around. Yeah, exactly. But going to the surplus store, the drop pouch that Josh ended up getting works really, really well. It's deep. It holds plenty of darts. It's easy just to drop in, grab them. There's a Velcro lid. Was it Velcro or snap?
It's Velcro and snap. So you can both. Snap and Velcro it if you choose. I usually just Velcro mine down because it's easy to
It's easy access, yeah. So you have that control of option. That's at a surplus store. Has nothing to do with Nerf. Yeah. Yeah, and there's other items we picked up too, like a special special pants that have pouches on them that are great for sticking either extra blasters in, extra darts, other
magazines,
gear. Magazines. We've got special magazine holders you can use. So
we got some bandoliers and stuff. I mean, we have a lot of people come to our games with all sorts of different gear ideas. And thinking outside the box when it comes to Nerf is really, really cool. Like, oh, that's a great idea. I never thought of using that for Nerf. I mean, and I know some people are really against using gear. I've read on some of the forums like, oh, don't use gear that helps you. I don't know. You play like that and that's your mentality, that's cool. But it's something to think about. For us, it makes the games a lot more fun. It makes things a lot easier and more streamlined, and people just tend to have fun and look at it like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's tactical is what it breaks down to. Mm-hmm. If you have the foresight to get this gear and prepare, then you should be rewarded for that.
Yeah, and if you want to make it out of duct tape, well, then also this is a great time to start doing that, making gear if you're going to do it that way.
Because let me tell you, duct tape projects sometimes take a little bit of practice. For example, when I was a little tight on money, I tried making a duct tape holster, and it did not turn out well at all. I was kind of just like, just freeballing it.
Right.
I cut out shapes in cardboard, started taping them up. I'm like, oh, but I want to fit an 18-round magazine in it, so it has to be extra deep at the end to fit that part. And then by the time I was done, I was like, this looks extremely awkward. I went in with an idea of what I wanted to do, and while it's functional,
right,
it looks horrible, and I don't know how well it's going to hold up. And we started using that instead as a sorting pouch for our teams when we're choosing them. I don't even use it as a holster anymore just because it was my first shake at it.
Yeah.
So definitely during the holidays, if you want to practice making your own gear, I mean, it's hard with craft projects because, in my experience at least, you seldom get them perfect on the first go.
Right.
You want to do it, and then you can see how you want to improve on it. Mm-hmm. And it's great that you have this time during the holidays where you can make a project, try it out, see how it works, and if it doesn't, hey, congratulations, you can make another one, have it ready for your next Nerf War, and no one's going to know you screwed up.
Yeah, you have time to make mistakes, basically. Or you have time to save up some money and buy a nice, holster if you want to do that as well. So just things to think about for, prepping a Nerf War.
Yeah, even just walking around a surplus store just to get ideas and brainstorm.
Yeah.
It's nice going in and saying, I have the luxury of time to think about how well this will work and how well this won't work, as opposed to just buying things because you have a war the next day. You think it's going to work out, and then once you get there, you realize there's a problem.
Yeah, or even looking around for ideas on things to make if you are a duct tape craft person or cardboard or whatever you want to make things out of. Sometimes you'll see something and be like, oh, actually, that's a really good idea. It also it's like this incorporated with that, or it has a place for darts or things like that you might not have thought of, and then try to make one if you don't want to buy it. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's something that looks like it would be really cool, but it won't fit a Nerf blaster in it or fit exactly for Nerf. So you're like, I want to take that idea and change it so that I can make it work with Nerf stuff.
That's very true. That's actually why I got the idea from one of the people who attend our games. Mm-hmm. They have a holster they got that actually it was made originally for paintball. Mm-hmm. And what's nice about it is with paintball too, I mean, obviously it's not standard sizes for everything, so it's adjustable. It uses Velcro and straps to kind of make it work for whatever size you need to.
Right.
And after going to that war, I had enough time to go online, order it, and have it ready for the next war. Mm-hmm. But I always make sure that if I have an idea I want to implement, I try and do it right after the last game. That way there's plenty of time for me to get it, test it out, and use it, as opposed to wasting time on the field, fiddling around, trying to get something to work perfectly, when it should just be working when it's time for game time. Mm-hmm. Both from my perspective, so I can have fun, but also for the people around me, because it's always a bummer in the middle of a game where if someone's blaster stops working, if their equipment stops working, having to go off to the side, having to have a friend come over and help you out and help you fix the blaster. Mm-hmm. I don't mind doing that, but at the same time, I feel like nobody wants to stop playing.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for that person because they're out of the action now. And I want to fix their problem as soon as possible, too, so they can get back out there.
Yeah.
But then that means there's two people off the field not playing, and then the teams are kind of like, hey, what's going on? We're missing players because the equipment's not working, when this stuff could kind of be beta tested and practiced before the games get started.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's going to be as good as, like, true full-on battle testing things because you're going to be running around and jumping and stuff. But, I mean, a lot of it, like you said, you can test out. Beforehand. You can see how it's going to sort of react, and if you have time, go outside and like friggin' run with it and like practice doing some reloads or moving around in a way that you would at a Nerf War and see how well it seems at least like it's going to hold up. You can do a little preparation beforehand instead of just taking it out hoping for the best, and then when it doesn't work, it sucks for you, but then like you said, it sucks for everyone else because suddenly teams aren't balanced and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of players just walk off the field in the middle of a game, and that team loses because they're down 1 or 2 players.
Yeah.
Because of the issues. And it's hard to pause a game in the middle of a game because of that. But, I mean, if a blaster's not working, a blaster's not working.
Yeah, I mean, that's something else to think about is bring extra blasters, you know? Bring a backup at least. I always bring at least, you know, what I want to be my main weapon. And if I have a secondary, I'll have my secondary. But I bring another main replacement in case something goes wrong. How many times have springs broken or something's just jammed up to where you can't get it, and instead of, well, I'm just going to walk off the field and spend the next 15-20 minutes assessing the problems with my blaster, you can, you know, run to wherever you guys are keeping all of your stuff, your sort of base, and just grab your other blaster and get back on the field as quickly as possible, and then after that game assess the situation, see if you can fix it in sort of the in-between time. I mean, that's what I do, because it makes sense. Why are you going to, I brought one thing, and if that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
Especially when it's something you've heavily modified, because there's so many things that can go wrong or break in those.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what kind of mod it is. It could be a homemade mod. It can be one bought from Orange Mod Works. Sometimes things just don't work as well as you intend them to do. So it's always good to have a backup plan, have a backup blaster. Me personally, I carry my backup blaster on me and still even have a backup blaster at our rally point.
Yeah, there we go.
And sometimes I'll even have extra blasters I leave in my car just because I don't want to leave all my stuff out.
Yeah, since we're hosting games, we tend to try to bring some extra blasters if people need an extra one. If something does break and it's like a permanent break and they only brought one blaster, well, we can usually try to hook someone up with an extra one that we'll bring. And that doesn't mean you have to bring your entire Nerf collection every time you go to a war. I mean, just bring the stuff that you're going to use. Try to keep it as light as possible, because we know we used to do that every single time everyone would bring all their stuff, and it was just a mess figuring out whose things were whose at the end of the day, finding just space for that many Nerf blasters. But, you know, if you can bring an extra one, bring an extra one. You know, don't go crazy, but don't bring one thing and just hope that you're not going to fall on it and break it or anything like that. Yeah,
it's very good to keep in mind how much stuff you're bringing with you, just because for most of our players, we're lucky because we have a car.
Right.
So worst case scenario, we can bring a bunch of stuff but leave it in our trunk where it'll be safe. If it's in a public setting where stuff is being left out, especially if it's a game where it's a NIC game or someone organized by someone you don't really know, having a lot of your blasters, your favorite blasters, in a position where anyone can grab them is always kind of a sketchy situation.
Yeah, and that's something else you will probably want to look into preparing before a Nerf War, is just marking your things. You know what I mean? Try to find an individual symbol, or if you're going to paint your blasters, paint them, and mark everything that you have. Even if you're running Steffens and you think no one else is going to run this color with this tip or whatever, just mark it. Like, it couldn't hurt. You know, if you're putting your initials on it, make it something that's individual. Don't just be like, oh, I put a dot on one part of it. You know what I mean? Write your initials on it. Or what I do to my Nerf blasters, I paint some of them, and then even when I paint them, what I tend to do is I actually created a brand out of a paper clip, and I will just heat that up and just brand it into my blaster. That way no one, even if it's not painted, it's going to be like, okay, that's my brand in there. Those are not just my initials. They're very specific.
And let me tell you, it sounds like overkill. It's really not, because it's so nice, because what I do is I take camo duct tape and usually wrap it around the handle, not the whole handle, but like the little small bar part that you would use for like a sling.
Yeah.
And I'll wrap a small layer of camo duct tape around there. That way I can always pick it up, look at the handle, and know it's mine. But let's say someone is actually at the game with the intent to take your stuff. They can remove the duct tape.
Yeah, exactly.
They can just take that. Or if it's painted, they can even say, oh, I painted my blaster the same color.
Yeah.
It's he said, she said. But with a brand, it's, bro, my initials are on here.
Exactly.
I'm the only one who has XY as initials.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your name starts with a Q.
Yeah, and they're not even, it's not something that you can paint over or take a Sharpie and mark over. If you just write your name on it, I mean, somebody could put duct tape right over it and be like, oh, this is mine because I marked it with this color duct tape, but like your initials are right underneath there. And I mean, yeah, you could do that with a brand, but it's gonna be difficult. You can see through it. You can't really paint over it unless you just are really, really super maliciously trying to do something. And I mean, it's not huge. It's small. I put it in a place where most people probably
it's like smaller than the size of a penny, I would say.
Yeah, it's about that size. So people, if they just look at a blaster, might just pick it up. Oh, cool, this is a blaster, and not even see it. And then I'm like, hey, is that mine? Oh no. Could you turn to the front? Oh, that's my initial, like, right there. I didn't even notice because it's, like, in the blaster.
Yeah.
You can't even tell that it's there.
And it's not always people's fault. I mean, I know I've been to games before, too, where people grab blasters, think they're theirs, and you'll be like, hey, has anyone seen this blaster or this clip? And they'll just say no. Because to them, it's not even occurring to them. They saw a magazine by where they dropped one on the field and say, oh, this must be mine.
Yeah.
And assume it's all randy-dandy. But when you look at the bottom, it's like, oh, there's camo duct tape on the butt of this clip.
Yeah.
This is not mine. So just being able to verify, not even accusing the person of trying to steal your stuff, accidents happen. So making sure that you prepare ahead of time to counteract these situations, to remove all doubt about what actually belongs to you, always an excellent idea.
Yeah. I mean, even like we said, paint. You'd be surprised. I was at a Nerf game. And I was not using my Alpha Trooper. I had it tucked away because I had just got my Retaliator and I was rocking that and it was tons of fun. And close to the end of the game, I saw somebody like with an Alpha Trooper painted almost exactly like mine, like the same base colors in the same places for the handles, and the only thing that was different was like they didn't paint. I think I painted over a couple of parts that they didn't. But at first glance, I was like, dude, who like went into my bag and grabbed my Alpha Trooper? Like, I immediately went over, like, checked it, and luckily I was like, oh, my Alpha Trooper's in here. Like, that's crazy. Pull it out. Like, dude, we have this almost exactly the same paint job with a few minor details. But I was like, holy crud, that means we could get these switched, and I don't know if he's modded his or I've modded mine. You know what I mean? I put money into mine. I know that, aside from just the paint. I don't want someone else taking this just because they were confused, and it wouldn't be his fault. I wouldn't blame him. But that's when I was just like, I got to start branding my things just to like permanently make sure that I know that this is mine. So even if you're painting your blaster and you think no one else is going to have it, you'd be surprised how close paint jobs might look that other people have done.
Yeah, honestly, having redundancy never hurts.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, paint your blasters, do all that sort of stuff. The other thing you might want to think about, and we touched on this a little bit already, was clothes. Like we run pants that are very, they have like pockets and they're very tactical and they breathe really well.
Tactical pants.
Tactical pants. That's actually what they are. They're tactical pants.
It's what they're called, but I'm sure if someone's just listening to us, like, what makes a pants tactical?
They're ripstop and like fireproof and have a million pockets on them. But I mean, you don't have to buy super specific pants, but make sure that whatever you're going to run in is going to be comfortable for you.
Oh, definitely. Like, even before I got my tactical pants, I was running, not skinny jeans, but not, because the other idea I had was running shorts with cargo pants in them because you have that extra storage.
Right.
But if you really think about it, I mean, it works, definitely.
Yeah.
But the baggier your clothes are, the more of a target you're going to be.
Right.
If you're running a jacket over it, if you're running some really baggy pants, it's going to be hard to run into them. It's going to be easier to catch the seam of your pants because they're just flying everywhere.
Yeah.
So usually I'd recommend form-fitting clothes. That way also when you're running around they don't snag on anything. They don't catch on any door handles, any tree branches, anything like that.
Yep.
Wear something that you're okay with getting damaged. That's where the tactical pants are handy because they're...
ripstop.
They're ripstop.
Yeah.
I was going to say rip-proof.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They have like reinforced knees and things like that, so
they're not going to get damaged easily,
right?
Because it is a bummer if you're running around in clothes you do like and they get messed up. So definitely wear comfy clothes that are form-fitting and that you're okay with getting messed up.
Yeah, messed up, dirty. I mean, I've seen people also think about again your loadout when you're putting this stuff together because I've seen people come in like shorts and they don't have like a bandolier or anything to carry things on. Like, oh, well, I'll just put it in my back pocket. Oh, wait, I'm wearing shorts. Like, things are going to fall out. Do I put it, like, in the waistband? Like, well, how do I hold this? So think about what you're going to put on you, how you're going to move. I mean, there's a lot of things, even if you're wearing a shirt. Like, I've seen people come in tank tops and then go like, oh, it's really, like, hot outside and the sun's beating. I'm going to get, like, a sunburn. I should have worn a regular T-shirt or something. Or maybe I should have brought sunblock. So just think about things like that. You know, what the terrain is that you're going to be on, because I've seen people wear tennis shoes on. That's great when we're on a blacktop location, and then we've gone into like more wooded type areas before, and I've seen people like, oh, like these shoes probably weren't the best idea. Maybe I should have brought something more ankle support. I personally wear combat boots no matter what location we're going to. I sort of do the same loadout for everywhere because it works. I'm like, these pants are good no matter where I go. If I'm in the woods, if I'm at like a school playing, these have ankle support, these have pockets, and these fit well, and like just a regular like t-shirt or polo shirt. And then obviously I have my other gear and stuff like that. But really take into consideration what you're doing. I've seen people come in like sandals because they're expecting us to just play in a field, and it's like, that's gonna suck.
Yeah, and that goes for gear too. Keep in mind what gear you're going to have together. Like, for example, I have 2 pieces of gear that when I bought them, good ideas. They've worked for other players, but they don't work together. So it's one of those harnesses that can hold extra magazines on the side.
Right.
And then I also have a drop pouch that also is on that same side.
Right.
So where my hip is meeting, there's going to be a lot of bulk in that same area now because I didn't plan it through. So I need to make certain adjustments, and I can get it to work.
Right.
But it's one of those things that once I put on the whole outfit and tested it out, I realized that there's an issue. And luckily I did this before there was a game because I was like, okay, now I can plan around this.
Right, you need to move your drop pouch to a different side or behind you. I mean, that's something you need to think about as well, which side you're going to grab reloads from and where you're going to put them when you eject a magazine. Or where you're going to have a sidearm, if you're going to have it on your thigh or like a drop leg holster. You obviously now can't put a drop pouch for darts there because you won't be able to pull out your sidearm as easily.
That actually reminds me, this probably isn't going to be the case for 99% of our listeners, but if you are new to Nerf and you are getting your blaster for the first time and going to a Nerf War the first time, I highly recommend you open up the blaster before you use it. A, to test it out, of course, but B, there's a lot of box and packaging that goes with that. The site you're playing at might not have an area to dispose of that cardboard.
Yeah,
so you're
definitely
just kind of leaving litter behind in that case. So it's kind of something that seems obvious in hindsight, but I'd recommend opening up your blaster beforehand and finding out a good way to transport it to the event.
Mm-hmm.
Be it a duffel bag, a backpack, something like that, to keep it all organized and in one place.
Yeah, that's something else I was going to mention is definitely bring some sort of bag. If not to hold your blasters, I mean, to hold your extra ammo, your extra magazines, any of your gear. I mean, you don't want to drive or walk or ride a bike, however you're getting this location, in full gear with all of your magazines on you, like all preloaded up and decked out and ready to go. I mean, just put it all in a bag, man.
Especially if you're doing stuff before or right after the game.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, oh, I forgot to get water. Oh, I'll just stop at 7-Eleven and grab a water bottle. And you show up in all tactical gear into 7-Eleven, someone's going to think something's up.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you go out to get dinner or something like that. Say you go to Olive Garden. You're having a nice Italian dinner with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You're being classy, having some authentic Italian food at the Olive Garden. Because when you're there, your family.
Yes.
We're sponsored. I didn't want to say it, but... Well, we're paid by the mob, so I'm assuming Olive Garden, the mob, hand in hand, right? That's how it works, right?
Yep.
There's a hit on me right now. Like, I'm looking out the window, I'm waiting for a sniper laser.
Yep.
I think it's just called a laser.
Setting up across the street.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's another thing, too, actually. Keep in mind if the gear you're getting is going to interact well with the other players. For example, a lot of people think it's cool to put laser sights on their blasters.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. No. Because if it goes into someone's eye, you're going to damage their eye. You're going to hurt them.
Yeah.
You could blind them.
There's definitely things to think about. I mean, as tactical as it might look, definitely consult your hosts before you bring anything.
Actually, in general, just talking to the host is a good idea because if they are not even seasoned pros, but if they've run a couple games, ideally when they're going in, they have an idea of how they want to run things and how it's going to operate. Mm-hmm. So they are the best people to give you advice of what to bring, what not to bring, what to expect when you're expecting.
Yes. Something that we almost forgot when we were talking about clothes and gear is iPro. You might not think that this is a big deal, but it really, really is. And not just for safety reasons, I mean, obviously it's a big deal because of that, but you'd be surprised how difficult it is to find decent eye pro. Because if you're running a lot, it's going to fog up on you. It might block some of your peripheral vision. So you want to try to, and I mean, this, honestly, you could spend decent money getting eye pro for this. I mean, yeah, you can just go and maybe get some all clear glasses. We're not sort of as bad as Airsoft, where it has to be full seal or anything like that. So yeah, you might be able to just go down to Home Depot, Orchard Supply, or something like that, and get some of those clear sort of safety goggles. And if that works for you, that's cool. For me, like, I sweat a lot, and a lot of times glasses will start to fog up, and goggles will start to fog up. Now, I happen to wear glasses, and they're far enough away to where it allows a lot of the heat to disperse, and it's not too big of a problem for me. But like my brother, for instance, he doesn't. So when he's wearing glasses or eye pro of any kind, he is like always trying to find something that's not going to fog up but also won't slide off of his face. We've tried like drilling holes in other like things. So there's a lot of things to consider when like thinking about eye pro. It's not just maybe as simple as I'm just going to grab these and go. They might be more cumbersome than you're thinking of. Try running around with them a little bit, getting sweaty, seeing if they fog up, seeing if you have good peripheral vision and can see things.
And making sure they grip well, too. Because the glasses I have, I'm lucky. Because I do sweat a lot, too. My glasses fog up all the time. The glasses I use are actually sunglasses that were designed for wakeboarders.
Right.
So they keep in mind you're going to be hot. You're going to be in an area where you can't easily take them off and clean them off with your hands. So they have vents on the sides that work really well.
Right.
And they grip really well onto your head. The worst thing in the world is when you're running around a lot and the glasses lose their grip and start bouncing around. They fall off. So you're sitting here fumbling with your blaster in one hand, trying to keep your glasses on the other.
Exactly.
Because there's nothing worse than having eye pro that falls off, gets damaged, and it's just gone for the rest of the game because it didn't hold on well enough.
Yeah, and make sure that whatever you get, it's shatterproof. That's the big thing. I mean, it's not a huge deal for us as we mostly run like elite streamlines, but if some wars, you know what I mean, are going to allow for Steffens that might have something that's hard enough to potentially break glass if it's close enough. You might run around a corner and accidentally fire a shot and boom, it hits the eye pro. If it's actually glass, which I mean, there's not a lot of stuff that's not shatterproof that you're probably going to buy anymore, but maybe you just have an old pair of glasses that you wear. Like, think about it beforehand in the off chance that it can shatter and get into your eye. It's probably not going to happen, but it's not going to be a huge cost to get something that's going to be shatter resistant, honestly. Just spend a little extra time working on your eye pro.
Yeah. And I think also bringing up an excellent point about glasses fogging up, just keep in mind, think about how you behave in a highly mobile, highly active environment and how you need to accommodate for that. If you know you drink a lot of water, don't assume there's going to be a drinking fountain there. Make sure you bring plenty of bottles of water.
Definitely.
And another thing, too, like Josh and I mentioned, if you tend to sweat a lot, probably the best idea I had, which is an obvious idea probably to a lot of people, but bring a sweatband, bring a bandana, bring something to keep the sweat out of your eyes. Because if you're running around when it's warm weather, when it's cool weather, any situation where you know you're going to be sweating a lot, it's so nice, A, not having the sweat run down to your eyes, B, you can even use your arms and just wipe off on your bandana. It's something that kind of helps collect the sweat, keeps you cool, doesn't agitate you in the middle of a game. Obviously, if you don't sweat a lot, it's not a big deal, but if it's something that does pop up for you, hey, there's no shame in it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about looking goofy. You're running around with a children's toy playing a game.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not saying that in a demeaning way. I love Nerf, but in the end, if you're running around a park, a school, a parking garage, a campus, don't be worried about dressing a little bit silly as long as you're being safe and doing something you know that will help you be healthy.
Yeah. I mean, even, bring a towel if you don't want to wear a sweatband or that bugs you for some reason. Have it hanging out of your back pocket or something, like people that you see at the gym. Just a small towel to wipe your forehead with when you get sweaty. Or bring hats if you, really feel like the sun's going to be in your eyes, or wear sunglasses or something. Just really try to assess the situation as much as possible before going in, so you can be well prepared.
And if you have a bad case of the white and getting sunburned a lot, definitely bring sunscreen.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how often I'll see players the next day and they're bright red all over their shoulders or their face. just because they assume they'd be okay. But, I mean, the sun's always around. Even when it's colder weather, the sun is always around. You can get sunburned in the middle of winter.
Yeah. I mean, you take into account where you're going to be playing. Maybe you thought you were going to have trees overhanging and it was going to be shady, and suddenly you're like, oh, crud, we're on, like, the blacktop or in a field, and it's just beating down on you. Bring... again, talk to the organizers. Make sure you know where you're going, what the sort of layout's going to be, and prepare. Because
most people running an event, I think they always have kind of a goal to make sure it runs as smoothly as possible. People don't want issues. Mm-hmm. So every time there's a complaint, at least for Josh and me, we kind of register it, take note of it, and try and fix it for the next event. So if we have new people coming, I would love them to ask questions. I'm not going to mind. I'm not going to think it's annoying. Yeah. It's just going to be, hey, we're solving a problem before it happens for a player.
Definitely.
And especially from a player's point of view, there's nothing worse coming to a Nerf War, realizing you're doing something wrong, and everyone else acts like it's an obvious decision.
Yeah.
Because then you feel even weirder. You're coming to a group you maybe don't know that well, or a new environment where you're new to Nerf, and people are like, oh, why didn't you bring suntan lotion or sunscreen?
Yeah.
That's obvious. We're going to be out in the sun. What are you, stupid?
Yeah.
Nobody says you're stupid, but that's something where talking to the host beforehand, you can save some face and make sure you're playing safe and playing fun.
Yeah. And I mean, if you've got extra stuff and somebody did forget things, that's why, we have a really good community where people aren't dicks to each other. Everyone's like, oh, cool, I forgot my sunscreen here. Have some. Jumping again back to another topic, because this just popped into my head, is when you're thinking of clothing and gear, aside from all the other things that we've talked about and comfortable socks and whatnot.
To be fair, we have not talked about comfortable socks at all.
Yes, that's true.
Not once. We have not compared thermal, cotton, synthetic. They even have battery-powered socks that keep your feet warm. We haven't even talked about that. We haven't even touched on that.
The subject, not the tip of the iceberg.
But continue.
Something that, again, might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised, is a belt. Bring a belt. I'm not accusing everybody who plays Nerf of, like, not having pants that fit, but you have no idea. Almost every game, someone's like, oh, I didn't bring a belt.
No, I'm laughing because that's so obvious, but when you're saying that to me, it's like, oh, I totally would have thought of mentioning a belt, unless I'm getting ready to go in the morning, because I'm like, oh, I'm playing Nerf? Well, let's make sure I have all my gear. What is a lot of my gear attached to? A belt.
Yeah.
And yet when you say that, I'm like, I would have never thought to tell someone to bring a belt.
Yeah.
I would just hope they brought a belt.
Exactly. See, I originally always kind of thought, like, well, that's obvious, because I wear a belt every day. And then when I'm playing Nerf, I specifically, a lot of things attach to my belt. Almost every piece of gear that I have attaches to my belt in some way to keep it more stable. And I have a specific belt with my Nerf gear and with my pants that are, like, it's very specific. It's more of a tactical belt and not just like a nice belt like I normally wear.
What makes the belt tactical?
What it's made out of and its size.
Is it made out of brains?
Yes.
I'll give you tactical pants, because that is what they're called.
You know what? You look these things up. You look them up and then go like, that's a tactical belt. That's what it is.
So for the common Joe,
it is a ripstop belt with
is it
like a dual weave, like 5 fibers on it, so that it can, like, if you can use it as you need to hang extra things from it. It has a weight limit. I don't make it up. That's what it says on the packaging.
So for the common Joe out there who doesn't want to drop the money on a tactical belt, which I'm sure actually doesn't cost that much anyway.
Yeah, no.
Was it like $15?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. If you want to go for a quick, simple solution, that'll work great. If you don't want to mess up your dress belts or your skater belts or whatever you want, go to Home Depot. Go to Arts and Supply. They have workman's belts that they use for like tool packs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and they work fantastic. And sometimes you can get them for like $5 to $10.
Oh yeah,
super cheap.
I'm not saying people need that. I'm just saying I keep mine with my Nerf gear because it's a specific belt that I use for that.
That's tactical.
It's exactly. It doesn't matter what belt that you use, but bring it not just to keep your freaking pants up, but to attach things to if you're going to have gear. But honestly, almost every single game, someone has like said, "Oh, my pants are falling down. Like I don't have a belt." And I'm like, "Why don't you have a? You're not even running gear that attaches to it. Like, come on."
It's always fantastic when you see someone running with a blaster in one hand, the other hand's at their belt loop, just holding their pants up as they're running. And it's like, I'm going to get you because you're holding your pants up at the same time, which once again breaks down to when you're thinking ahead of time what clothes you want to wear.
Yeah.
Do your pants fall down a lot? Mm-hmm. You should be wearing a belt anyway, but if you aren't, go get one. It's cheap.
Yeah, like, come on. Go to a thrift store. Goodwill has belts for like $2. Get something, as long as it's there to hold up your pants. And honestly, you can still attach things to it. It doesn't matter what kind of belt it is.
This podcast was brought to you by the Belt Organization.
Belts are us.
The Belt Lobby of Northern California.
So I think... oh, you know what? The other thing, and this is just something to think about again, if you bring a backpack or something, you're going to want to... well, you might not want a place, but I personally, and I know a lot of our players do, want a place to keep their like wallet, keys, phone, like that secure. I don't like to run out on the field because I get so sweaty that having a wallet and keys on me, like I ran with my wallet one time and I'm not joking, I opened it up and my money was like like I have money, like my $2 over my wallet and all my receipts were like wet from sweat, you know what I mean?
You liquidated your assets.
There we go.
Is what happened.
That it is in my back pocket, so they are my assets.
It's a good point, because honestly, I've done this a couple of times where I show up to a Nerf War just wearing typically a lot of street clothes that work fine for what we're using them for. But, like, I'll have my wallet on me, and my wallet will have all my credit cards, my cash. I'm a baller, so I got all these ones for the strip club. And I'll go there, and I'm like, I want to make it rain on bitches, but at the same time, I could be putting a 6-round magazine in my front pocket. So when people are asking if I'm happy to see them, it's my Nerf darts and not my money I'm talking about.
We need to preface this with this particular episode is for a more adult audience than our previous ones. Apparently, we're going to the clubs and making it rain for bitches. That's
how you work on your aim. You gotta make it rain. It's very easy. It's the same. Like, I'm doing the gesture right now to Josh. It's the cocking mechanism.
There's like 10-year-olds listening to this, like, yeah. When I grow up, I'm gonna be a baller. I'm Nerf darts to the club.
Just roll up $1 bills. Hot glue a dart onto the top of it. Just shoot it when they're climbing up the pole.
It's going to take like a strife in there. Making it rain.
Rain darts.
Oh, man. That would be kind of hot, actually.
That would be pretty awesome. we have a new idea for a strip club.
Right? Nerf darts.
But I had a point to all this. So wallets for guys can be very bulky. Yeah. So it is tricky just to put them. Like, I would often move them from my back pocket to my front pocket just because it's easier for me to fit the magazines back there. Yeah. But in situations where I just wanted it gone, I'm like, I can either walk to my car, lock it up in there, or I can put it with my Nerf stuff. But I'm like, hey, my wallet with my Nerf stuff, if someone's taking stuff, my wallet's right there. That's just a stupid idea.
Yeah.
But then the other issue pops up, car keys. Cool, I can lock my wallet in the car. I can't lock my keys in the car. So those either A, gotta be on my person all the time, or B, gotta be in with my bag, and I gotta hope I don't get carjacked.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm telling you, any of you who are listening right now thinking this guy's an easy hit, I keep them on my person at all time. I choose that option.
Yeah, I mean, so just it's something to think about. Keys, like we said, you don't want to, like, maybe go prone or hit a wall and you've got keys, or maybe you don't want to sneak and they're jingling, or even just they're uncomfortable because they're in your pants. Same thing with my phone. Like, I don't want to hit my phone against, like, a wall when I'm rushing up to it, or it also gets, again, very, like, wet because I'm sweating a lot, and that doesn't seem like a good thing for my phone. So, like you, I tend to lock most things in my car and then just keep my car keys on me. If that's not an option for you, I mean, think about bringing a bike lock with you and locking your stuff up. Or if you have a backpack, locking up, a lot of them will have like 2 zippers, so you can lock them together so people can't open it up. And I mean, if somebody's going to come and like bust out a knife and cut open your friggin' backpack, then obviously I don't think they're a person that you're playing with. There's potential for that to happen one way or the other. But it's keeping it more secure. People aren't just going to be able to open it up and like look through your stuff and grab your money or your keys or your phone or whatever.
That works great for backpacks, duffel bags, honestly most of the stuff people use. If you feel okay with your stuff being kind of out in the open, but you're looking for a cheap, easy way to transport it, forgot to mention this earlier, but a good suggestion, and this is what I do personally, giant IKEA bags. If you ever go to an IKEA, they have giant bags made out of tarp meant for holding a lot of materials. They're usually, I think, under $1 to buy them. But I just use it to transport a lot of our game stuff just because they hold a lot of stuff. It's easy to transport it back and forth.
Yeah.
But in this example where you're locking up your stuff, making sure it's protected, it's not the best option because there's nothing sealing the bag.
Right. So think about that as a player. If you're running games, also think about this. You're probably going to be bringing more things than just the regular people. I mean, maybe you aren't. Maybe you just run games and all you bring is, your blaster and your darts and you're good to go. For us, we have a lot of stuff because we have community dart piles. We have a lot of props that we use in our games. We like to keep it fairly interesting. Maybe in the off season, and we did this, was look at a new way to maybe hold all that stuff because we were bringing everything in like IKEA bags and backpacks, and it was just cumbersome. We'd have to make 2 or 3 trips out to the car.
It was a pain in the butt, plus finding out how to, who was going to hold on to the gear. Now we have it down to all of our props are almost in one bag, I think, now.
Yeah, we have a giant duffel bag for the props and a big,
like a big container.
Yeah.
A giant plastic container, like the kind you put Christmas decorations and stuff in.
Yeah.
With smaller containers on the inside that hold the darts.
Yeah, darts and just other things. We can keep it organized, but keep it in one easy thing that we can throw into a back seat or a trunk. And then throw that down. Then I bring my own separate bag that has my blasters and my gear in it, and that's mine that I know I have to bring. And so I've just got sort of 2 separate things, and you're good to go. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot easier than having 3 or 4 bags with all of this stuff in it. So something to think about on a game running aspect in the off season is maybe transporting things just as well.
And for game runners too, I mean, since you have free time, brainstorm some new game types. Just brainstorm. Just think about what you want to do for your games, what's working, what's not working, what goals you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And this is the perfect time to start executing them. I know Josh and I over the summer, we were on a bi-weekly schedule for a lot of our Nerf games. So that means every 2 weeks we were having a game, which was a blast. I loved playing that much, but it ate up a lot of our free time. Pretty much anytime we're off of work, we had to meet, talk Nerf, make props, come up with game ideas.
Yeah.
And while it's fun, don't get me wrong, it's still a lot of time to work on, a lot of time needed to work on those projects. When you have off time or downtime, that's really when you need to be thinking about these. It's great when you're at a game realizing something's wrong, but being able to acknowledge it and fix it, that's going to take time.
Definitely.
No matter who you are.
Definitely. I mean, brainstorm ideas, talk with people that you played with, that come to your games to see, what they want, what they expect, what they like, what they didn't like, so you can improve and constantly keep improving. Look for new locations maybe as well, Maybe you guys have been playing in one spot all last summer and you want to find a new spot to play, or you want to bounce between a few different locations. It's good to have backups in case you go to your location and there's like a ton of kids there because somebody's having a birthday party and you didn't realize it. And you're like, crud, we got to go somewhere else. Wait for everybody to get there and be like, hey, we're going to meet up at this other park or school because it's obviously full here. So it's, there's things that you can do in the off season, even though you might just be sort of like, cool, kicking back, I've been running games, I don't have to do anything right now. This is the perfect time to sort of more leisurely be able to do things that you might want to do when the season rolls around instead of rushing and trying to find something. Or like we said, you're at a location, it's full, and suddenly like, well, I guess there's no Nerf game because now there's a bunch of people here. Or we're going to go play on this tiny little area or something like that.
Especially if you operate on a seasonal cycle. If you're having more games or less games, the first game after a bit of a break is always kind of going to be a big game for everyone because if people haven't played very often during the breaks, haven't had many sources to go to, if it's been a while since your last game and you're starting up a game, you're going to have a lot of people be drawn to that just to get their fix back in. So being able to come into that game with a game plan, have plans, know how you're going to operate everything, how you're going to fix problems, if you're going to have raffles, if you have special ideas, new game types you want to roll out, just making it a big event, you have all that time to plan it out and make sure everything goes well. Luck always favors the prepared. So if you have a plan going forward into a game, make it the best game you can.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that's about it.
I think that's everything that can go on between wars. If you have any tips, feel free to comment, let us know. We're always open to suggestions and hearing more feedback from people about what you do when you're off time or off season for Nerf, or even what you just do between games standardly just to prepare for the next game.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's about it.
That's everything.
Thanks for listening once again. This is Josh.
And this is Shawn.
Happy nerfing.
Happy nerfing.